Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. We apologize for the issues last night. We got everything fixed, and so we're going to redo it tonight. We've got a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Tom Berry, two-time Harris Class champion, IMCA Super Nationals champion, Dakota Tour champion, and all kinds of other things that he's won that I don't really know a whole lot about. But I know he's won a lot of races. I've seen him a lot, some local stuff from time to time, and a lot of specials. This last Sunday won your very first ever late model feature. So tell us about the late model deal.
That was fun. We really been struggling. Rick Drawley, the car owner, I was telling him after we won, he's off suicide watch now because we were both about ready to throw the towel in as bad as we've been, but made some headway on setup. A good friend of his and helper, Kurt Beckler, helped him with some setup stuff on smashing springs and spring rubbers and more complicated stuff than the IMCA modified. And pill draw helped for the feature. We started front row outside, but overall, there was no way we would have held it times before. So just ended up being our night. And, Vinton's got a special place for me just because they got my first IMCA modified win there in 2016. So first late model win there, it's kind of a special place.
Yeah, it looked cool. I mean, the car looked great. You did a good job. And that second to last restart, I thought it was going to get pretty exciting. Well, you guys came about 3 wide down the front straightaway. I'm like, this might be more exciting than I thought.
Yeah, me leading, I did not like that, but I knew I had to go in and block the slider and just try my best. And the car ended up turning, and there was enough grip off the top of four to kind of launch back in the lead. And, JD, I've always raced with years past and modified a lot. So we got, I'd say pretty good respect going against each other. And, it just ended up working out, and we didn't wreck, and we ended up in the lead.
Yep. That was awesome. Sad to see Gary Webb flip. That was kind of a nasty rollover there off of turn 3 and 4, but glad he was okay. So that was good. A lot of racing still going on. We had a lot of races this last weekend. We got a lot of races going on. A lot of racetracks. So their season championship was last weekend, and so there's some more that's going to be this weekend. So pretty exciting. What's going on with Chad?
Well, we're busy turning the rig over. We spent 3 days last weekend in Missouri on the Heartland Mod Tour. We made the trophy for the Larry Phillips Memorial, so we went down there, hand delivered it, hit a couple of them Missouri short tracks, and had a good time down there. And now we're in massive prep for probably one of the craziest 11-day stretches of our factory support team ever, having the Jamboree and Fountain Cities specials the same time as Super Nationals. So we're prepping both rigs. We're going to have employees and team members at both races and try to cover 11-day stretch. So it's going to be pretty wild. We're should be dialed in. It's going to be fun. Can't wait. Super Nationals.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. One of your old buddies, Tom Dakota, has a question for you. He wants to know what your load up to race ratio is this year, and how do you draw the front row 9 times out of 10?
Oh, I knew I was going to get these questions. We've loaded up quite a bit. I don't know. It seems like this year some of the tracks have been struggling with track surface. I guess I'm getting soft in my older age maybe, but I just learned everything costs so much. And, at the end of the day, I pay for my own ride and pay for my own way in. And Schrader says, GBD, good business decision. So just try to make the best business decision. And, not even, a lot of it's sponsored money too, but I just look at the whole picture and, there's no point burning out a sponsor either and spending too much than you need to. So we just make the choice when we think it's right. And I've learned over the years to go with my gut. And I don't think it's steered me wrong since I've been doing that. So I just go with the gut, load up if I need to, race when I need to. And like I said, I love every minute of it, and I'll try to get better at not loading up, but I just tend to do that sometimes. And then the pole deal, I don't know. The COVID draw has been doing me real good. The computer draw, the late model feature Sunday was computer draw, start on the front row outside. Handful of times this year, start on the front row outside of the modifieds. And I don't know what do they say? The sequence or whatever is just in my name, I guess, on drawing my name up front. So I'll take it while I can. I've been in the back of the row. So like I said, there's been years, a lot of passing cars and a lot of running from the back, and just glad to be up front.
Well, that draw seems to go in cycles, man. I mean, like Braxton was on a roll there for a while, had some really good draws. Definitely, no doubt about that. I'm going to skip a couple questions. One of your buddies, Rick, wants to know if you even bother to wear tear-offs.
There's times I forget. Where did I race? The last race I was at, I was wiping my visor because I forgot to put tear offs on. Oh, it was actually at Maquoketa Saturday. I had 3 on when I went out for the feature, and it'd been raining all day. And I left the gloves in the car. We were on an open trailer. I was driving Ryan Doom's Rage Modified, and the gloves got all wet. Well, my plan was to wipe, and I go out to staging, and I go to wipe the dust, and it's smeared wet. And I'm like, oh, this ought to be great. And luckily, I think because of the dust and mud, when I went to wipe, when I was racing, it actually was like a windshield wiper and actually cleaned it pretty good. So I only ended up running, I think, like 13 laps of the feature. I hit a guy in the left rear and it cut the right front down and ended the night there. So it didn't really matter.
Jason says he puts a lot of your guys' stuff to work on an IMCA modified, and it's so much better than it was before. Thanks for doing this. It's a great help. Russell, this is a guy that actually had emailed me today, and I told him to come on the show and ask. He wants to know what the spring table be on the fronts of a street stock. And I wasn't sure I had an exact answer for that question, so I was going to leave that up to you, Chad.
So the spring table is determined by the tip of the screw jack. So on a street stock, I don't know what you have for spring cups, but if the bearing is on the top, I don't have a front drawing, but if the bearing is on the top of the cup, on both sides, then it would be a level spring table. Generally, the right front screw jack tends to be a little bit farther down, just to get the car scaled. So then it would be lower on the right front, which would induce roll. So you can adjust the spring table by putting a shorter right front spring in if the rules allow. They make a 1-inch shorter spring, I believe, or you can put a drop bearing cup where we move the bearings down in the cup. So we have a 2 1/4 drop and a 1 1/4 drop. So that lowers the spring table on the right front, and all that is kind of like a teeter totter. So when the point is lower on the right front, it rolls over easier instead of having to climb over the top of it. So spring table is definitely something that can have a huge advantage to get mechanical roll and then have spring rate in the car to drive the tire into the racetrack. So I don't know if Tom, if you ever play with your spring table on the front or back.
Actually, we've played with the spring table in the back. I've never. I guess my Razor car in 2019, I had a drop cup that you guys made in the right front. I think I just got away from it. Really, just building cars. They have most time they have the standard one. Whoever was building the car and just happened to. I guess I'm not super picky. I try to just drive the car and see what it feels like. The back spring table. Every car that I've drove, some of them were fixed with plates. Some of them had jack bolts. You definitely, it's not a massive change. I feel like feeling in the car, but it does change the right rear feeling, dropping the right rear or, raising it. So, I feel like too, dropping or raising the right rear CG of the car, you need to move both of them, the cage, I feel like, and the shock mount up or down together to make it an actual feeling change. But I think mainly I've mostly been in the stock location of any car I've drove, and just messed with loads or J-bar rake for roll center or whatever I had to do to get enough roll and wheel pressure on the right rear.
Now, the next two coming up are some of your good buddies. Wesley wants to know how many reps of 315 can you do on a bench?
That's just probably one right now. Gotta eat more steak like Wesley. He likes his ribeye down there in Arkansas. So
Dylan wants to know, when you race a lift arm car, do you like the strut bar to be a yeet rod or stick rod?
he's referring lift arm. You got either the strut rod coming off the axle to the lift arm, or the rod coming off the frame over to the lift arm like a rocket. We were testing with that stuff back last year, and man, we were all over the place. We thought at Cedar Lake we were onto something, putting it off the frame to the lift arm, and we gained a bunch of traction. Kind of figured it out through the 3-day swing, and then I think we went to, I want to say it was Mason City Ogilvie the next swing, and we were horrible. So we didn't figure anything out there. I think you got to have a notebook on where it's good and where it's not. I would say most of my success came off the rod, off the axle to the lift arm, more like a Longhorn car.
Sounds good. Well, we have plenty of time for more questions. We got the guy with the Superman on his shirt there, and so we definitely have time for questions. Less than 2 weeks, we'll all be at the 42nd annual IMCA Super Nationals, August 31st through the 7th. I'm really looking forward to the Super Nationals this year. I think we got a good shot at everything. Forecast long term is forecast. The weather doesn't look too bad, so I'm pretty excited. That 98-degree heat last year was a little bit much for me. I'm maybe getting a little pampered in my older age, where I like that air conditioner a little better. So I didn't get out to see a lot of people, but hopefully that we can do that this year. We'll have the BHE shock trailer there to service shocks for shock customers. We're located right inside the back gate there, right beside AFCO, right between AFCO and Weir's Machine. We'll have suspension parts, rear ends, bumpers, and chassis components on hand. We'll have the new BHE apparel, RTI school information, and the hours at the racetrack will be 9 to 5. Our new GRT modified and the BMB stock car will be on display at the BHE shop in Ames this year. We're not actually going to have a car at the racetrack this year. We're going to have one at the shop so that it's only 8 minutes from the racetrack to the shop, so people can go over to the shop and see what we do there. Wednesday, September 4th, we're going to have an open house, free brunch style meal during the day. Factory vendors will be on hand and plenty of door prizes. Hours for that's going to be 9 to 1, and that's pretty much what I've got. So hopefully we've got some more questions. Oh yeah, Wesley's got another question. Do you see any advantage to more deck rate from the center back?
Man, I tend to think so, but I've started to realize I think total rake is total rake in a way. But I don't know. I think too, I'm good friends with Bobby Pierce, and I've helped him on his late model, and I just laugh every time because his right side doors and quarters are the highest car on the racetrack. His nose is probably up 2 inches higher than everyone, and he probably has the most wins or up there this season. And I definitely think the modified deal, you want to be, maxed out, but not illegal like I was last year at Super Nationals. So, yeah, people were giving me crap too on my Snapchat. I'm putting a new right side deck, and they're like, "Oh, getting all the illegal stuff back off to get it legal for Super Nationals." So Dave's been on me this year. I think we're tuned in, and same car as last year. He's been happy with it. So I'm pretty excited. Actually, everyone's been saying good things about the new dirt they put on. I don't know if you got to watch much racing at Boone there, Bob.
Yeah, I actually have. I'm very impressed. And all of the things that they've done to the racetrack. They've got new safety lights on the racetrack that you can't possibly miss. They're NASCAR type lights, yellow lights. The dirt is awesome. I mean, the racetrack now has got a good top, a good bottom. The top doesn't seem to be dominant anymore. Last weekend, we've seen McBurney was running the top, and the 11 car Isaac was running the bottom, and I mean he was good down there, and it's in the middle's good. I think it's the most racy I've seen that place in 3 or 4 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome show. I mean, it's definitely going to be pretty cool. And like I said, that they've done an awesome job with that place.
Well, that's good. Yeah, last year was. I feel like last year was. I think, like you said, the 95-degree heat, 1,000+ race cars. Everything kind of just didn't go in the track's favor. Years past we at least get 1 or 2 days of rain or some kind of rain. I think it was just so torched all week. They couldn't get enough moisture in the dirt. It was tough racing, that's for sure.
No doubt. I think what I've seen the last something like 220 plus modifieds are registered, 250 stock cars are registered, and I think there's like 150 sport mods. And I didn't actually look at the other numbers, but I mean, it's going to be a good group. And like I said, I was very hesitant when I heard the deal they were putting dirt on there because sometimes that can go good and sometimes that can go bad. But they did an awesome job. I mean, those guys, they knocked it out of the park. It's awesome. Travis says hi.
What's up, Travis?
Donnie wants Wesley Wise to look at Superman.
Old Pawnee Dieterson. That's his nickname.
I mean, the new lights, like I said, the new lights actually are almost on the verge of bright. I mean, you can't possibly miss when they turn the yellow lights on now. It's like what they have at the NASCAR tracks.
Yeah, Dylan Thornton tagged me in the Boon post, showing me the new lights. Make sure I don't run the red. So
I see.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice that you got friends out there kind of helping you out.
Yeah, they're always pointing me in the right direction. That's for sure.
That's what friends are for. I got to back up here a little bit. Kyle, IMCA stock car. We've found comfort with 170 pounds of bite, with lots of stagger in the front and back with right side drop cups. I'm not changing, but wondering if you have heard any others doing this. Well, to be honest with you, Kyle, that I've heard that actually a fair amount. That seems to be a common factor. I don't know much about the rear stagger. That's kind of all over the board, and that's kind of a driver preference. Just depends on how the driver wants to drive the car. But yeah, we've definitely heard some other guys running more front stagger, and that bike number. That's kind of all across the board. I mean, we're pretty much seeing anywhere from 120 to 170, depending on the car. And that's stuff that I don't actually get a lot of information. I don't ask a lot of people about that number because that's kind of their own deal. So, but that's kind of the things that I've heard. RJ, when the track goes completely slicked off, top to bottom, should you ever mess with the right rear upper bar to create more traction on the right side? My car's just a little tight center off, almost like it picks up the nose. What you guys' thoughts on that?
I would think you'd raise the right top rod to sit it back down and get it to rotate through the middle.
Yep. I always feel like less angle on the right upper is more straight line center off. So raising it up would free him up.
Yeah, it definitely helped the car turn a little better. It puts a little more steering there, and it would definitely help get more traction to that right side. And the other thing is, kind of depends on, hopefully, if you're not too tight on the chain,
Yeah.
That's another factor to factor into that deal. Because if you're real tight on the chain, I don't know if it makes a ton of difference where that bar angle actually. I mean, it makes a difference, but
Yeah.
IMCA Sport Mod, struggling with being free on entry and not enough drive off in the slick. What should I do? We play a lot with that right side bar. I mean, just like on the modified, we play a lot with the right side lower bar, and the same thing with the sport mod. We play a lot with that bar. Lowering it down is going to tighten it up. Getting in, it's going to tighten it up coming off the corner. That's one of the things that I would recommend. What do you guys think?
I play with left front spring a lot. Going depending on how light you are, I go up in spring rate. It'll usually tighten you up on decel and then give it more wedge for exit. Uh, Stagger, too much stagger can kind of make you rotate in all the time, but it'll technically just it'll start your whole corner out free. Too much left side too, depending on if you're 100 pounds or 200-pound driver, too much left side weight could free you up too much getting in.
Gotcha. Rob says, if Peterson moves back to California, would he get back in the announcer's booth or just pay more for taxes?
That'd be a question he'd have to say. Van Sickle at Marshtown, he's been wanting him to get in the announcer's booth up there, but I know his plan moving back here was to be on the road racing more and learn about race cars. So I'm doing my best to teach him the right way. And I think he's liked every minute of it. He's been pretty tired. I know that. He's got work early in the mornings and racing at night. So I've been starving him on sleep, but he is surprised how fast the summers go back here. And every year it seems like they go faster. The more you race, the more work you have. It's just it's a grind, from about April to September, late September.
Yeah, no doubt. And Luke, our old buddy the 007, wants to know how much cheese he should eat before the race.
I don't really know. He's been slacking. Normally he'll bring me cheese whips and string cheese and all the works from, I can't remember the place, but somewhere fresh. They always squeak when you eat them, and meat sticks too. Him and his dad been lacking on that. So hopefully they bring me some down for Super Nationals, and I don't know, I'll have to trade him out for something. I know he don't drink anymore, so I can't trade him out in Busch Light. So that's the problem.
We took the squeaky cheese
Speaking of that, Michael wants to know what's in the gallon jug.
Just water right now. Just got out of the gym not too long ago, just trying to hydrate.
AJ, Sport Mod, when you flatten the right side bar out, how much negative angle is too much when the car gets over on the right rear? I've never been a real fan of having it go super negative. Probably negative 1 degree would probably be my max. I still like to see, angle in that right rear bar because I think it helps the car rotate getting in. And it technically has traction off because a lot of times we focus so much on traction on the left rear, but traction, all kinds of traction on both tires is going to actually make the car faster.
Yeah, I'm big on that too. I would say I've learned a lot this past year and a half. I used to run pretty flat right side rods, and actually I run them up most of the time now. And I feel like if you can get the car tight enough, you'll create that right rear traction when you're on the gas, and that drive angle will drive the right rear in the ground. A lot of people think too, you need a bunch of left rear in a slick, and I feel like sometimes people just lack overall side bite and corner speed. If you can carry more speed, you don't need as much actual straight line grip to get off the corner. So,
yeah, by far, if you can, I mean, that's what we talk about in the schools. I mean, the race is won in the center of the corner. I mean, that if you can go through phase 2 of the corner, the best of anybody, you're going to win the race. It's just because you have so much more speed coming off the corner that you don't need the sure traction. Um, Travis says protein shake, Michael. And Rob says current deadlift PR and how does lifting help drive center off?
505 on the deadlift, and I guess I tend later in my racing career, I tend to be more of a straight line guy. Like I've gotten so much smoother and enter the corner so much straighter. I can run a lot less side bite than years past. And being that I'm probably the heaviest I've been in a while, that's also left side will give you left rear dig off. So uh, I don't know. There's pros and cons. I'll say, working out, lifting weights, I feel like I'm never the guy getting tired or settling for second or third. Lots of the races you guys watch or seen, I'll win them later in the race or, a hard battle with someone. And, it's just a will to not give up and be either mentally or physically taxed. So I feel like, I praise Bobby Pierce a lot just because I watch him very closely in the cockpit and certain things. I mean, he's wearing nasal strips to open up his airway, little mechanisms to hold his legs, hold his feet. I feel like anytime you can get more comfortable or more relaxed and calm in the cockpit, the better you're going to be. So I feel like just overall health, eating good, cockpit, everything goes hand in hand.
Or you just need somebody banging on your rear quarter panel there to help your mental calmness stay calm,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. That usually fires me up if I feel it, but there's there's times you can get too fired up. That's for sure. But you gotta be the hungriest guy is gonna win the race. So I try not to over race, to be honest. I feel like when I race too much, I lose the hungriness of just wanting to win. I mean, you always want to win, but sometimes you get day 6, day 7 in a row, and you're just you're the guy there at the racetrack, and I don't want to be the guy just there. I want to be the guy to win. So I think definitely there's times you need to take breaks. Even if you're a racing family, I caught myself in 2020 doing a lot. We'd race 3 nights a week, and then there'd be a race on, say, a Thursday. And instead of going to the movies or going to have a good dinner, we'd go to the racetrack and watch. And I learned that there's a balance. There's a balance in everything in life, and you gotta balance that out. And I feel like too much of something is not good. So you have to just tell yourself to stay away from the racetrack sometimes to keep that hungriness and keep that want to.
This would be a good time to tell Stremmy's dad's story, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So down in Volusia for the Gator Dirt Nationals, his dad and mom came down, and it was the first time I met them. And we were at Gold Miles testing, and David was running pretty hard. And the next day we drove up to Volusia. We're working on the cars. And the following day I believe it was the following day we had our first night of racing. And I want to say it was probably halfway through the race, me and David were throwing slide jobs on each other, and we got done. David ended up winning, and the next day his dad came, and we were kind of just bullshitting around, and he's like, man, he goes, I don't know. He goes, I haven't seen my son drive that hard in a while, and he goes, it's something about you racing with him kind of gets that ham off his back. And I was like, what do you mean by ham off his back? And he goes, well, and David loads up the same way as me. If you don't like the track or don't want to race it, he'll just load up. And his dad's not that way. His dad gets pissed when he loads up. And he said lately he just hasn't been hungry. And he goes, something about you getting back with him and being in his life made him hungry. And he said it's hard to be hungry when you got a ham strapped to your back. So we're always teasing on Facebook and on the phone. He'll either say it looks like you had the ham off your back, or I'll say it to him. So it's kind of a funny saying, but a true saying. You got to be hungry.
Yeah, no, I totally would agree. You got to be smart, but you got to be hungry.
Yep.
Bobby wants to know on a modified, Tom, what's your go-to adjustment for more launch off the corner?
I'd say my two go-tos are stagger and man, stagger and probably right bars or wheel spacer. Obviously wheel spacer is a side bite thing, but we talked about you want to create more side bite when the track slows down. So I would say I'm big on. I learned a lot, to be honest. Chad will vouch for this one. 2020, I won the national championship, and I think was it 2020, Chad, for Super Nationals? You came out with the digital stagger, stagger to check stagger, the stagger stick.
Yep.
So I went up there and me and Chad were talking and I said, and I was kind of giving him shit a little bit, but I was kind of, interested too. I said, what's this new deal here? And he's like, well, it's check your stagger, but you can, you check your left rear, it would record your left rear, you go over the right rear and record your right rear, and then it would do all the calculations for you. And I'm like, then I started teasing him, like, well, what's that for? And he's like, well, check stagger. And I was like, I ain't never checked stagger. And so 2020, we never checked, or leading up to 2020, I never checked stagger. And then 2021, I was kind of mediocre, ran pretty good, but I was also in a new chassis and figuring out. Then 2022, we had that really, really good season. And I hired my good buddy, Austin Hemmon, that works for Bobby Pierce now, and tire guru. And I mean, it was all about stagger, front stagger and rear stagger. And I learned it's very, very important. I realized what I gave up in 2020. I think I was just happened to be lucky. The car was really good. Track was good. Maybe, driver was on point too that year. And I just, thinking back, I gave up so much speed on stagger. And it's definitely a true thing. And you were talking that someone was saying about front stagger. And I truly feel like front stagger doesn't do anything in our race cars, but I think tire size does. So what I mean by that is, say you run an 84 right front and you go to bolt a new one on and you only got an 82. Well, you got to think of the wedge you just lost in your left rear to right front wheel weight on changing that tire size. So I don't technically think the car knows the stagger, but it does know the tire size and making the wheel weight different.
Awesome. AJ wants to know, what's a good starting angle for the right rear bar? And AJ was the sport mod guy, wasn't he?
I think so.
I think so.
That's going to be yours. I'm very little knowledge on the sport.
Right rear. Normally the right rear, we run about 7 degrees if it's a little bit heavy, and then go down to about 3 to 4 degrees when it gets real slick. 3 degrees probably would be my bottom number, because when it rolls over, it's going to be pretty flat.
What is that, ride height or on the?
That's at ride height. Yeah, ride height. Travis wants to know, what is your secret at drawing the front row at these big races? Well, I even had somebody the other day that said something, but when we announced that you were going to be on the show, text me and said, make sure you find out what the secret is to drawing the front row. I said, okay, I'll ask.
So we had it was Dakota Sprawl earlier. Travis, he's a good buddy of mine from up in North Dakota. The mod tour, I think I drew the front row 3 out of 6 maybe, but he's my lucky charm. The last night going into Mandan, he told me which one to pick, and obviously over the phone on the other 2, but I just walk up, I'd call him, say, which one? And he'd tell me 3 from the right if you can, if not, go 2. And then I tested the theory at Britt for Night 1,000 Stars for the qualifying feature we had to draw. And he said, pick 3 from the right, and if that's taken, go from 2 from the right. Well, Kelly Shyrock being number 3, he was right in front of me. He picked the number 3. It was a 6, and then I picked the number 2, and it happened to be the front row outside. So he's been the luck behind me, I guess. Said, I don't know, it just all worked out, I guess.
There you go. Michael wants, he's a USRA modified. When would you want to take the right rear chain off? Well, in my opinion, the right rear chain's there for safety factor, because if you start loading that right rear chain, that thing's gonna turn into a hill handling pig if it's rough, and God knows where the frime's gonna go when you hit a hole. What's you guys' opinion?
I think I've learned a lot with right rear chain over the years. I think there's a balance. Too tight can feel good, but necessarily it can kill traction, like I said, because it can't climb up. I would say USRA mod having the horsepower. I'm guessing it's a lift arm, but it might be pull bar. I think a lot of the USRA modified with the horsepower, they tend to start with a heavier track. Obviously, heavier track, I would free the chain up, tighten it down when it gets slick. But like I said, I wouldn't go past your standard because you get too tight. I've had where it's felt better, but you can't really go anywhere where you don't have. It's hard to say you don't have the actual dig.
Yeah, the car can have a little more traction, but it's not as maneuverable.
Yeah. Yep.
Tom, where's Daisy?
That's a that's a joke. Zane Velbus, his dad and him, they bring their dog named Daisy, and Zane's dad's always ripping around on the little moped, and he's always meep meep, and he come on Daisy, come on, and meep meep. So that's where that comes. A lot of people notice he's always running around at night with Daisy, so that's funny.
Awesome. Robert wants to know, what front spring should you start with on a metric clip open motor A mod? Well,
That's Bob Harris right there. That's you. I'm a crate guy.
The metric clip is going to be stiffer than a Chevelle clip because, of course, the spring location is totally different, and the A-frame ratio where the spring is located is totally different. As a rule of thumb, I would say you'd probably want to be 600, 650 on the front of that car. I mean, that's kind of where I would probably be, because the Chevelle stuff is more 500s in that neighborhood. So it's about 100 pounds heavier for those cars.
Did you ever mess with them clips, Bob, back in the day, or was it all Chevelle?
Yeah, we started with Chevelle. When we originally built our first modified, it was a situation where rules-wise, the Camaro was kind of what Ed Howe built back in the day. And that had just, in my opinion, probably the best OEM suspension of anything that had been actually on the market at the time. Well, the Camaro was evolved over the Chevelle, and we had to go to the Chevelle because of the frame, because the Camaro frame was a sublet frame. I mean, it didn't have a whole frame underneath it. So that's where we went with the Chevelle, and that's why I've been there ever since. Yeah, I've never built anything on anything but a Chevelle frame. And it was awesome when AFCO came out with that Chevelle frame. That cutting them dirty old frames apart, man, what a mess.
Yeah, I built 3 of my own cars, and it's a lot of work. It's hacking, grinding, welding, sandblasting, you name it. It's a lot of work.
Well, and then half of them are rusty, and I mean, it was just a pain.
Did you ever mess with was it the El Camino clip where they had it boxed in on the rails, so you had to cut the rails out, or you never had to do that?
No, I never did that. We looked at one, but see, that frame was actually longer.
Mm.
So it would have been like a 112-inch wheelbase car.
Oh.
Without cutting, the way you had to,
Yeah.
you could cut the frame at that time. Okay, John, on a B mod, where do you measure spring table, and what should be the difference between the two? I'll let you have that one, Chad.
I got my trusty drawings. We keep
Awesome.
we keep them here for this. So if it's a B mod with a screw jack type car, so it's the tip of the screw jack, just like the front end. So spring height is in the play, and where the screw jack tip is located in the spring cup is in play. So the measurement is at ride height from the ground up to that point. And what you want is you want it to be lower on the right side instead of lower on the left side. So if it's lower on the left side, it's harder to roll over. Lower on the right side rolls over easy. If it's a coilover car, then the springs are all out of the equation, and it's from the ground to where the coilover assembly hooks up. So if it's a slider B mod and you got sliders on both sides, it's where the slider hooks up on both sides. If it's an A mod or, with a shock, it's the same thing. So it's from the ground to the center, up on both sides. Most cars start level, and then I would say 2-inch would be the max that you'd want to go. We built some stuff to about 3 and 4 inches. It's a lot of motion, and it was just too aggressive. So if you have screw jacks like that, it's easy to adjust. We make all kinds of clamp on stuff to move that down, and we have bolt-in drops too. So it's definitely something that there's, a little bit to tune with there to, like I said earlier, if you lower the spring table and get the mechanical roll, you can increase spring rate then to drive the tire into the racetrack. So it's kind of a balancing act between, the spring load and the mechanical force.
You guys all feel like, I feel like the best spring for a modified or a B mod is anywhere from like a 175 to 225. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Right rear?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
I would
like
have
balance.
the right rear. We tend to go towards the stiffer one, the 225.
Yeah.
I don't know. With our cars, if we go much softer than the 225, it kind of seems like the car just kind of lays there and gets kind of lazy in the middle of the corner.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to come back up and help get up on the bar like it should. That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I'd say I've been all over the place. Every car I've had been, but I felt like the happy point's been 175 to 225.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It kind of depends on the racetrack too. I mean, some racetracks are, a guy's going to probably want to be a little stiffer because you're hitting the corner real hard, and like we've always found that Deer Creek tends to like a little stiffer right rear. It's just because near the corner.
Yep.
Especially in the sport mod stuff. Okay, Wesley says Donnie Peterson, JD calls him Superman. You ever see those? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Dos Equis.
All right, they made those about him. Awesome. We've even had commercials made about you, Tom. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Kevin Stowe, what's up?
Yeah. Hi, Kevin Stowe. Austin, benefits of going from a 2-inch offset to a 3-inch offset on the left front of a modified. Well, I mean, it's going to narrow up the track a little bit. It's going to increase your left side percentage. I don't know. Some guys think it helps the car turn getting in. Myself, I've never been a real big guy of making the front end narrower. I kind of like the front end to be a little wider. I think the driver has a little more control over that. But some guys run 3-inch on the left side.
I tend to, but I usually run a wider right front. I learned it at Batesville. I think it was 2019, but the track was super fast, and you got to be able to steer there really well. And I learned that on like a faster track, you got to steer better. You move the front end left, and on track that's slicker, that you need less steering, more grip, you move it right. Because I couldn't steer. I had a Batesville. I was on a 2 off with a 1-inch wheel spacer and a 3, and I went to a 2 and a 2, and it was like night and day how the car cut in the corner.
Well, that would make sense, especially like Batesville. The speed that place has, that would make a lot of sense. James, Northern Sport Mod, what would you recommend for static and dynamic left rear bar angle? Currently have 55 degrees static, and the car feels like it has too much steer and dynamic. 55 degrees static. Yeah, if you're on a Northern Sport Mod, that's a lot.
A lot.
We're normally, we set our cars up at about 28 degrees in a static deal, and dynamic, I like to see them about 48 degrees, 45 degrees. And I've never had real good luck with the sport mod stuff going past the 45-degree thing. You end up kind of half the time with a left rear hop, and it seems like it just, I I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be as consistent to drive. Jake, IMCA mod at Boon. How much left rear droop do you recommend, and how much dynamic rear steer? I'm not sure.
I think that's all over the board. I would say every car I've had has got different chain, different steer numbers. I've tried to replicate it too, cars that I've had that are really good. And I think you just got to find a balance. I know one thing, depending on if you have a home built or a manufactured car, I feel like the best way is to start where the manufacturer has it. And to be honest, I think every car but one, I've done great on just the standard, whatever the manufacturer sets it up or the measurement they like is usually pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally because each manufacturer, depending on where they measure it and how they do their stuff, it's different. Um, I don't think there's a rule of thumb. Um, give the car what it wants.
Yep. Go with your gut.
Yeah, no doubt. And Boone's Racetrack, I don't know. I don't think it really needs an excessive amount of steer. I think the car, I get on a lot of customers there. They just need to let the car roll in and let it drive itself and have plenty of traction coming off, and you'll be in good shape there.
I think Boone, you got to be able to, it's such a big hill. If you can open your corner up and run down the hill, if you're able to, that's the best way. If the car will do it, that's what you want.
Well, and that's kind of how your driving style was at Deer Creek.
Yep. Kind of just let it
You
roll.
get a heck of a launch off the corner, but you started it in the middle of the corner.
Yep.
Ron wants to know on an A-mod, 125 left rear spring, inch and a quarter preload, 100 pounds of bite, left rear sets too high, got linked for deck height. Any ideas? Gotta lower your deck.
That or go softer on spring and keep the preload the same and lower your ride height there.
This must be another one of your buddies, Tom. Bo wants to know if you lost your weight room key.
Yeah, I'm getting a little thick. All them deer sausages you guys sent me from North Dakota, I've been eating too many of them.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Hey, I used to live on it when I lived up there, and I haven't had it for like 3 years, and I finally got a load of it coming home this year. So, there's Joe Duvall finally.
I think what you guys are all doing is great for a lot of racers. The guys with jackass comments should keep their pie holes shut. Well, Joe, there's days where I would completely agree with you. And then there's days where you got to add a little humor to things.
Yeah. Hey, right there, Joe. Representing.
Big Daddy.
So thanks for coming on, Joe. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Joe, you don't got to worry about Joe. I feel like I'm kind of the same way. He's straight up, kind of blunt. You either like him or you don't, but you ain't going to get told a lie. I'll tell you that.
I'd much rather have somebody like that than somebody else that, is nice to your face, talks behind your back. I'd rather have somebody, if they don't like me, tell me I'm a piece and go on.
Right.
And we both get along fine. I mean, that's no problem.
That is for sure.
So what's your racing schedule this coming up, Tom?
So I plan putting a new tint on my crate car, so I'm probably just going to park that till Super Nationals. Probably Saturday I'll start working on my open car, and I'm going to run. My plan is to run Deer Creek Wednesday through Saturday, and then come directly home Saturday night, unload, switch tires and rims over, grab the crate car, load it up, and then head over to Boone Sunday. And then I think if the late model keeps running good like we did on Sunday, we're going to run that at the Monday night Super Nationals. And no stock car ride this year. We bought a shop, and I bought a house in Marshtown here, so we've been doing a lot of renovating, and we haven't had time to get the stock car done, so we just kind of parked it for the rest of the season. And then I feel like if I run good, everything goes right, don't wreck a bunch of stuff, we'll go to the Mod Wars down in Texas for the 50,000 to win down there. So I think it's 3 weeks we're on the road, be home 3 or 4 days. So it'll be 3 week stretch, but I think after that you know how it is, it kind of gets hit and miss after Super Nationals on racing. So which is nice. It'll be nice to run 1 week, take a week off, run 1 week, and then get ready, like I said, start grouping up. I think we're already in the works. Me and David are talking. I'm going to run Volusia again next year or this coming up year in his car, and so we'll probably start out there. And then Mike Whittlestat that I've drove for a few times this year, I'm going to probably run his car a few times in Arizona, either at Casa Grande or Cocoa. So
Awesome. Well, that'd be fun. Well, I had a
yeah,
lot of fun last year when I went down there to Arizona that first week. It was froze my ass off, but it was pretty cool.
it's weird that Yuma. It's because I'd never been to Casa Grande till this year, and it's night and day. Just because Yuma's kind of out in the farmland, the winds, it's flat, and then Casa Grande, you're outside of Phoenix there, and it's like 20-degree difference at night. It's crazy.
Oh man, when the sun goes down there at Yuma, I mean it's cold.
Yeah, yeah, it's dry cold.
The only good thing about that being cold down there, I wasn't in all the blizzards up north.
Yeah, well, you were probably so. I believe I went the first week to help Chris Morris, the
Oh
dirt
yeah,
collegiate.
yep, you were
Um,
there.
I helped him, and what was cool is I think I flew out right when all that -20 and -30 and all the snow blowing. So that was a nice way to leave.
Yeah, no doubt. Um, Dave says you've got a busy schedule there. Um, Jordan, how would you keep a modified consistent and keep corner speed? Tight end can't keep up the corner speed through the center and loses drive off.
I would say some of it on a driver is a lot of footwork. Working on your trail braking, how fast you dump out of the fuel. I think there's a balance. Years past, I feel like I've been super, super stuck in, and I've just been able to, I guess, manhandle it. But like I've talked over the years of, I feel like getting my footwork and driving capability better, I've learned to be able to have a freer car. So lap traffic comes into play. Say you're starting 12th in the feature or something like that, you can maneuver around and go wherever you got to point the car. But yeah, I'd say, it's probably, I would say 80% footwork. You can change a race car. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the guys that are really good at trail braking, and I keep telling my customers that you've got to drive the car free. You got to set the car up free and rely on the throttle to pull the car underneath you, because it will do that. Everybody's scared that it's going to spin out, which I understand that's not a great experience. But the way these cars are today, I mean, you got to really do something stupid to spin them out. And,
Yeah.
and they've got enough side grip that you can run right in there, and as long as you pick up the throttle and that right rear starts biting, it's going to drive you forward.
Yeah. I feel like you saying that, I've learned over the years, you got to keep that. If you don't keep the car loaded up and drive it hard enough, you can't get the stick that you're desiring because you're not getting the wheel load.
Yep.
And when you're driving too soft, like I said, you have to. It's just like the late model. It's taken me a few races. You have to trust it, and the more I drive it, and the harder I drive it, the more hike, the more load, and obviously we've changed setup, but it's been a lot just trust. Trust. That's the biggest thing.
That's that seems like that's just kind of the way it works. But you do have to really have a lot of trust in it. But once
Yeah.
again, if the car's set up right, I mean, you see the guys that drive the hell out of them things. I mean, the cars just work.
Yeah.
Let's see. Danny, left rear spring behind, shock in front. What what it do when you lean the spring in at the top where it mounts on the chassis versus straighter up and down. What's your guys' opinion on that one?
I tend to do the crate stuff. I feel like we're crates, you tend to be a freer car in, and we have plenty of grip off. So I tend to run my left rear spring more straight up. It stiffens that wheel weight up and takes left side out of the car. Usually tends to give you better stick getting in. Open car, you got a big spoiler, tip it in, frees you up, kind of with that spoiler, help you turn in.
Julius, Tom, I think we need to see Sealang in that open car.
Oh, C Lang, he's a B mod guy from Kansas. He's a jokester.
There is some of them in this industry. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's exciting about the Super Nationals, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure for Chad too. We get to actually meet a lot of these people that are on here and that watch this thing very often, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, Jaden says Swift BP Spring, thumbs up, thumbs down. Um, once again, yeah, some of them stock cars run really good. I see a lot, some guys, some chassis builders that use that in the right rear from sport mod stuff. You don't see it often in the modified stuff.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of it too is I'm not big on one spring brand, I guess. It's more or less what spring heights, what rates, what fits your needs. Every company's got different heights and needs, and I feel like you need to go wherever you feel like you got to go for what you're trying to accomplish.
Jaden says when on the right rear too hard, 2 turns out of the right front and 2 turns in the left rear. Would that help keep the car consistent feeling? Uh,
Depends on if you're on the right front too hard, then, or you lose. It's kind of a happy medium there.
yeah.
I would change something other than the screw jacks if you're on the
Yeah.
right guard.
Yeah.
I'd look at the spring table.
Especially on a B mod, I feel like B mods and stock cars run a lot more off of like wheel weights and bite, for grip. So you start jacking with springs, you can kind of get lost. I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I know some guys, I see some guys with the modified, do some of those changes, and they're changing it for height and deck height and stuff like that. But I've never had good luck with that. I mean, of course, I'm really old school, so I believe in the scales, and
Yep.
I don't want to change those numbers.
I think scales get over or under talked about once Chad had to come out with the load stick. I think the load stick's great, and but what do they say, the old way doesn't, or the 100 ways to skin a cat. That's what it is. But I like the load stick for track stuff, changing springs at the track. But I think, like you said, I don't care if you put whatever springs in the car, if you put on the scales and the scale numbers are jacked up, you're never going to have grip.
Right. Yeah, you're going to be out to lunch. I mean, that's that set of scales still keeps the car balanced, and you got to start with a balanced setup, so you know where you're at, so you know where you got to go, and then you know where you've been. So definitely that's the case. Um, I don't know, Dad. Is your crew would they be able to do a show from the Boon Super Nationals? Because I don't have it. My guy, he's gone tomorrow. Otherwise, we can just do the show the Monday after the Super Nationals.
I mean, it's up to you. I'll have internet there.
Well, it's totally your call.
It's probably, I mean, it was kind of a little bit chaotic the one year we tried to do it. I would say we just wait until the week after and try and get it done then.
Yeah, I would be all about that.
It was
I
cool
think that's a great idea. So we'll plan on next show. We'll see everybody on September 9th. thanks a lot, Tom, for coming on and all the work that you put into your computer to get it so that everything worked. And hell, now you
Yeah.
can go on everybody's show because all your stuff works.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and like I said, love answering questions and talking with you guys. And you can never learn too much. A narrow mind's not good. So seems like every year I think I know it all, and depending on if it's race stuff or life things, I keep learning. So that's all I can ask for.
One more question. Jaden's got thoughts on a soft left rear spring. Well, that seems to be the trend. Softer left rear springs, that seems to be going really well with the load in it. And it definitely helps the car. It gets up a little bit better. I think it's more responsive than a stiff spring will be. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's a few factors. Deck height, some guys struggle. You can kind of play with that. And I think there's a balance. Like I said, the 175 to 225 range on the right rear, I believe, in my personal opinion, and doing it long enough, I feel like an 80 to 125. You get too much more, it's too much spring. Get too light, then you're jacking with, like you said, the wheel loads, and it's not being stiff enough and holding the car up. So,
Awesome. So where are you parked at the Super Nationals, Tom?
so I switched. Normally I'm on the front row there, but I'm sick of getting scratched and there's no room to walk. So I'm lucky enough. Paul Stone has two paid spots on that new. It'd be like off of turn one there, the new wider
Okay.
concrete.
Yep.
I'm the first rig on the end there, right by those new tall stands they built. So
Oh,
I'll
that's
kind of
nice
be
up there. They
yeah.
got all.
I think honestly, I would say back in the day before those pits got expanded, the front row, what do they call it, Champions Row, was like the ticket for T-shirt sales and everything. I still think that's a good area, but I think on that whole new concrete area with the plug-ins, there's so much traffic there now. It's
Yeah.
really not a bad spot to be.
Well, the thing of it is, everybody comes and goes. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody that leaves that place has to come
in
to
or
go by
out.
where you guys
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
It's so much nicer out there.
Well, and
The front row used to be the key, but man, it's such a congested mess.
Yeah, and you're probably where Jake parks a lot of times. It's hard to back in your spot because of
Oh yeah.
staging and like I said, it's just chaotic. It's not weekly stuff. It ain't hard because there's 150 cars. You go in, go out when you need. Now you got 1,000 cars. It's a mess.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
Michael wants to know who your pick is to win the Mod War race.
well, I'm gonna say first me, but I don't know. There's a lot of good Bullring, Texas guys, or Southern guys down there. I mean, I've been to Hot Speedway once in 2018, and it was a Bullring for a crate car, so it's definitely going to be up on the wheel, Bobby Pierce style, around that place, and you're just going to have to get after it. So it'll be tough. I think Rodney runs good down there, the open stuff. Honestly, probably a sleeper would be Tyler Wolf too. He's pretty good on them small bull rings. So
Yeah, he's been running pretty good here lately.
yeah. It's going to be up in there. The one thing I do like about this format is you're not going to get penalized for qualifying good. So I think if you can just put every race together and put all your eggs in one bucket, you can qualify good, win your heat, start on or I think you draw maybe top 4 for the feature, but it's just going to be all for performance.
All right. Well, awesome.
Right.
Thanks, guys. You have a great week and good luck with your racing. Have a lot of fun there up at Deer Creek there, Chad. I'll be thinking about you. And we'll see you guys in about 10 days.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you, guys.